Was hating Manchester United the biggest mistake of Trevor Steven's life? He certainly faced a lot of criticism for that decision, with many questioning why he harboured such negative feelings about such a huge opportunity. But that wasn't the only time he found himself under the spotlight. His involvement in a legal dispute with Rangers and his critical comments about Gareth Southgate's England team also led to plenty of questioning about his choices. One of the biggest shocks in football came in 1989, when Trevor Steven decided to reject the offer from Manchester United and instead join Rangers. At the time, many people were left scratching their heads, wondering why he'd turned down a chance to play for one of the biggest clubs in the world. After all, United was on the rise, and the opportunity seemed too good to pass up. But Steven's decision wasn't just about the club, it was about his future in European competitions. The ban on English clubs in Europe following the Heysel disaster had a major impact on him. He knew that joining Rangers would give him the chance to continue playing on the European stage, which was a huge draw for any player at that time. But this wasn't the only time Steven found himself in the spotlight. In 2007, he got into a legal battle with his former club, Rangers, over unpaid image rights and bonuses. He wasn't happy about the money he felt was owed to him, and he took the club to court. While the case was eventually settled out of court, the whole situation attracted negative attention and wasn't great for either Steven or Rangers. It was one of those moments where fans and the media were divided, and Steven's actions were certainly questioned by many. Fast forward to Euro 2024, and Steven was back in the headlines, but this time it was for his outspoken criticism of England manager Gareth Southgate. Steven didn't hold back when it came to Southgate's tactics and team selections. He openly questioned the manager's choices, offering alternative strategies that he thought would work better. This led to a lot of debate, with some fans and pundits agreeing with Steven's perspective, while others felt that his comments were too harsh and could undermine the team's spirit. Steven was always quick to make an impact, and his career began right after he left school in the summer of 1980. That's when he joined Burnley, a club where his career would take off. Steven's debut came just a year later, on April 14, 1981, when he stepped onto the pitch as a substitute in a 4-2 victory against Huddersfield Town at Turf Moor. He was only a teenager at the time, but his potential was clear from the start. The 1981-82 season was when Steven really made his mark. His first start came at Bristol Rovers in September, and from there, he quickly became an essential part of Burnley's midfield. That season, he played 36 league games and scored 3 goals, helping Burnley secure promotion to the second division as third division champions. It was a huge achievement for the club, and Steven's contributions were key to their success. However, Burnley struggled to maintain their position in the second division during the 1982-83 season, and despite Steven's 8 goals that year, they were relegated back to the third division. Despite the setback, Steven's talent hadn't gone unnoticed. In the summer of 1983, Burnley accepted a $300,000 offer from Everton for the 19-year-old, and just like that, Steven's career took a massive leap forward. His debut season with Everton was a turning point, and the 1983-84 campaign proved to be pivotal for both Steven and the club. Although the team finished 7th in the league, 2 excellent cup runs saved the season, with Steven playing a supporting role in both. While he didn't play in the 1984 Football League Cup final, where Everton lost to local rivals Liverpool after a replay, he was in the starting lineup for the 1984 FA Cup final just 2 months later. That day at Wembley, Everton faced Watford, and it was a historic moment for Steven. He was involved in the second goal of the match, which ultimately secured a 2-0 victory for Everton. As Steven made a run down the right flank, he sent a high, awkward ball into the Watford penalty area. Everton striker Andy Gray challenged Watford goalkeeper Steve Sherwood for the ball, and though Sherwood seemed to have control of it, Gray's header found the back of the net. It was a moment of brilliance from Steven, and it earned him an FA Cup winner's medal. The following season, Steven continued to develop into one of the best right-sided midfielders in Europe. His partnership with right-back Gary Stevens was particularly strong, and together they formed a creative and solid link on the right flank. The team went from strength to strength, and under manager Howard Kendall, Everton won the First Division title for the first time in 15 years, and they reached the FA Cup final once again. Though they missed out on a domestic double when Manchester United won in extra time, Everton had some consolation when they triumphed over Rapid Vienna in the European Cup Winners' Cup final. In that match, Steven scored the second goal in a 3-1 win, securing another European title for the club. He had also played a crucial role in the semi-final against Bayern Munich, where he scored a vital goal. By the 1985-86 season, Everton was still challenging for major honours, but a frustrating post-Heysel disaster ban on English clubs kept them from competing in Europe. While Everton finished the league season without a trophy, Steven's personal form remained strong and he continued to be one of the team's key players. Unfortunately, in 1986, the team suffered another heartbreak when they lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup final. It seemed like Everton was always on the cusp of glory, but couldn't quite seal the deal. In 1987, things took a positive turn once again. Everton secured another league title, and Steven played a major role, scoring 14 goals in the league, his best tally for the club in a single season. However, that summer, his long-time right-flank partner Gary Stevens left Everton to join Rangers in Scotland, and Stevens struggled to replicate their successful partnership with replacement Neil MacDonald. Despite his best efforts, Everton finished the 1987-88 season without silverware, losing the FA Cup final to Liverpool once again. This time, however, Stevens' future seemed to lie away from Goodison Park. As the 1989 summer transfer window approached, Steven was faced with some big decisions. Graham Souness, then manager of Rangers, offered him the chance to rejoin his old friend Gary Stevens in Glasgow and reform their partnership on the right. Alongside Rangers, offers came from other top clubs, including Manchester United, who were in the midst of rebuilding their midfield around Brian Robson. However, despite the interest from such prestigious clubs, Steven chose to join Rangers. There were a few reasons behind his decision, but the main one was the allure of European football. At the time, English clubs were still banned from competing in European competitions due to the aftermath of the Heysel disaster, and Steven had missed out on European opportunities during his time at Everton. At Rangers, he knew he would have the chance to play in Europe, and that played a big part in his decision. In the summer of 1989, after 299 appearances and 60 goals for Everton, Steven made the move to Rangers in a $1.5 million deal. Although Steven's arrival at Ibrox was overshadowed by the controversial signing of Mo Johnston, the first high-profile Catholic player to be signed by Rangers since World War II, he quickly became a key figure at the club. In his first season, he helped Rangers win the league championship, and the following season, they secured another title, plus the Scottish League Cup. Steven's impact was felt both on the pitch and off it, as he helped Rangers remain dominant in Scottish football. In 1991, after 2 successful years at Rangers, Steven made another big move, this time to France. Olympique Marseille, one of the biggest clubs in Europe, signed him for $5.5 million, which was the joint highest fee ever for a British player at the time. Unfortunately, Steven's time at Marseille was short-lived. The club was financially troubled, and reports in December 1991 suggested they were considering selling Steven to recoup some of their losses. Despite the uncertainty, Steven stayed with Marseille until the end of the season. By July 1992, it seemed like Steven had agreed to join Leeds United, but just days later, he returned to Rangers for a fee of $2.2 million. Although he faced some injury issues, Steven continued to be a solid contributor for Rangers. In his second spell at the club, Rangers remained dominant in Scottish football, winning league titles year after year. However, as his time at Rangers continued, Steven's appearances became less frequent due to injuries, and with the arrival of Paul Gascoigne in 1995, his role at the club diminished further. In his final season, 1996-97, Steven made just 8 league appearances and scored 1 goal as Rangers matched Celtic's record of 9 consecutive Scottish League titles. After 12 seasons in Scotland, Trevor Steven retired from professional football in 1997. Steven's international career was a roller coaster, but he certainly made his mark on the England team. It all started in February 1985 when he was called up by England's manager, Bobby Robson, to make his debut in a World Cup qualifier against Northern Ireland. Just a young player at the time, Steven immediately impressed, and he stayed in the squad for the next few games. His first international goal came in a friendly match against the Republic of Ireland, where he scored in a 2-0 win. In the same set of qualifiers, Steven also contributed to 2 important draws against Romania and Finland. It was clear early on that Steven had the consistency and work ethic Robson was looking for, and he began to establish himself as a reliable member of the team. In 1985, after some solid performances, Steven was handed his 5th cap in a match against Italy, which was part of a summer mini-tournament in North America. He was joined in the team by his Everton teammate Gary Stevens, and together they brought their successful club partnership to the international stage. But even as Steven found his feet in the England squad, he wasn't the only player vying for a place on the right flank. Chris Waddle, with his flamboyant and explosive style, posed a real challenge to Steven's position. Despite Waddle's more eye-catching performances, Robson often opted for Steven's more consistent approach and team-oriented play. By the end of the summer tour in 1985, Steven had scored his second goal for England in a 5-0 thrashing of the USA in Los Angeles. His strong performances continued into 1986, and in January he scored the opening goal in a 4-0 win over Egypt in Cairo. With the World Cup on the horizon, Steven continued to earn Robson's trust, and by the time the tournament rolled around, he was part of the England squad heading to Mexico. When the 1986 World Cup began, Robson initially chose Waddle as his right winger for the opening match against Portugal. Unfortunately, England's performance was lacklustre and they lost 1-0. Despite this poor result, Robson stuck with the same lineup for the next match and England played to a frustrating 0-0 draw with Morocco. The team now had to win their final group game to avoid elimination, and that's when Steven got his chance. Robson made a bold decision to swap out Waddle for Steven, pairing him with Steve Hodge on the left wing. It was a change that paid off. In the final group match against Paraguay, Steven was instrumental in England's 3-0 victory. As he worked down the right flank, he linked up with Stevens to set up the opening goal for Gary Lineker. Hodge then provided another assist for Lineker's second, and Stevens' corner went unchallenged, allowing Lineker to complete his hat-trick. It was a fantastic team effort, and Stevens' contribution didn't go unnoticed. He had helped England secure a crucial win, and they progressed to the knockout stages. However, England's World Cup dream ended in the quarter-finals. They found themselves 2-0 down against Argentina, and Robson decided to bring on John Barnes, who played a starring role in the second half. Barnes single-handedly tore apart the Argentine defence, but despite his efforts, England couldn't complete the comeback. They were eliminated, and Steven's World Cup journey ended in disappointment. By the time the 1988 European Championships arrived, Trevor Steven had earned 22 caps for England, but the tournament was a major disappointment. England lost all 3 of their group matches, with Steven missing the opening defeat to the Republic of Ireland due to injury. He returned for the 3-1 loss to the Netherlands, where his header hit the underside of the crossbar in a crucial moment. Despite the early exit, Steven remained a key figure for England. In 1990, Steven made the World Cup squad for Italy, though he didn't start until the quarter-finals against Cameroon, where he came on as a substitute. He played a similar role in the semi-final against West Germany. Under Graham Taylor, Steven was selected for friendly internationals but didn't feature in the qualifiers for the 1992 European Championships. As injuries hit the squad, he was called up as a replacement and played in the group matches against Denmark and France, both ending in draws. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.